Hi, it's Fab Poli here and welcome back to another episode of BizJet TV, and today we're going to be talking about the Boeing Business Jet. Now, what is a Boeing Business Jet? Now, just to give you an idea, there's a number of types of Boeing Business Jets, and what Boeing have done is they've taken their airliners and they've kitted them out, they've taken all the passenger seats out, and they've basically designed a flying apartment. This is what they do most of the time. You can get the 727, the 737, the 747, the 777, and even the new Boeing 787 configured as a business jet. But what I want to focus on today is the classic BBJ, the BBJ-1, which is based off of the Boeing 737-700. Now, the 737 is the most successful airliner that Boeing have built. In fact, right now there are 3,500 Boeing 737s operating around the world. If you think of Ryanair and Southwest Airlines in the US, they've got large fleets of 737s and been operating them very successfully. Now, with the Boeing 737, what they do is they take all the seats out, all 149 seats out the 737-700, and they kit it with usually about 19 seats. But you can configure the airplane with a few more seats or less seats. A lot of these airplanes also have a stateroom, which means a bedroom with a real bed and a shower. So that's really, really comfortable. So what this airplane basically does, and then the other thing they do, before I forget, is they also put more fuel tanks inside. So where the baggage space is for 149 people, they basically sacrifice some of that baggage space and put extra fuel tanks in it, giving the aircraft a range of about 5,800 nautical miles, which allows you to fly directly from Los Angeles over to London. So who is this aeroplane for? The Boeing Business Jet is basically, most of the people that buy, you've got heads of state, but then you've got business people and private individuals that buy this type of aircraft. I mean, I was involved with the sale of a Boeing 777 a few years ago, which is, I sold it from an airline to a private individual. The airplane was then kitted out with a private jet interior, and I was part of this project. So the BBJ market is very unique because it's a very unique airplane. As you can imagine, there are only 192 of the BBJs in the 737 derivative, basically, in the world. And if we consider the 747s, the Airbus corporate jet, which is a derivative of the Airbus 319, and also Embraer, which make the Lineage 1000, if we add all those airplanes together, we're talking about 320 aircraft out of the 30,000 private jets that are flying out there. So it's a very, very small niche market. But who is this for? As I said, it's for heads of state. But basically, if you are the type of person that wants to get on an airplane and not feel that they're on an airplane, feel that they're in an apartment, this is what the BBJ does. You can get on the airplane, you can have a meeting, you can have a meal, and the meal can be cooked by a chef with a proper kitchen on board, which you won't get on a Gulfstream, for example. So they can cook you this meal, you can have a really nice meal, watch a movie, and then go to bed. And then after you've slept in a real bed, you then get up, have a shower, and you're ready for your meeting on the other side of the world. So this is basically who the Boeing Business Jet is for. It's for people that have that kind of need, or just people, that have the money and decide, you know what, certain trips, I want to be able to fly in a flying apartment. And so they go for the Boeing Business Jet. Now, how much do these things cost? Now, today, you can buy a Boeing Business Jet from anywhere from $18 to $85 million. I'm talking 737s. If you're going to buy the 787 or 777, the dynamics are a bit different, the costs are a bit different. But if we're comparing, for example, buying a Boeing Business Jet compared to a Gulfstream or a Global Express or Falcon 7X, these are the prices. So acquisition cost is about the same, because you can buy a G550 today for about 30 million. You can buy a BBJ for 30 million as well. But the operating costs are going to be very different, because we're talking a much larger aircraft. So you're going to be restricted as far as the runways you can get into in the airports, because parking space on the ramp, you need more space to park a BBJ than you do to park a Gulfstream G550, for example. And operating costs on the G550, if you're flying, say, about 600 hours a year, you're talking about $3.5 million a year, compared to about 8.5 to 9 million on the Boeing Business Jet. So that's where the difference lies, because it's a much bigger aircraft and burns more fuel. But one of the advantages, for example, of the Boeing Business Jet compared to the other conventional private jets is the fact that the pilot training and also the maintenance is a lot cheaper, because there are 3,500 of these aeroplanes flying at the moment, so there's lots of places where you can take your airplane to be maintained, and pilot training is not too expensive. I mean, we're talking $15,000 to $20,000 for type rating for pilot, compared to about $50,000 to $60,000, which it would cost you on a Falcon 7X, for example. So this is the thing. But the other thing I need to point out is there is a bit of a disadvantage with the BBJ, in the fact that it is altitude restricted, so you won't be flying higher than 41,000 feet. The cabin altitude is about 8,000 feet if you buy an older model, but if you buy one of the newer models, the cabins are fitted with this pressurization system, which brings the cabin pressure down to 6,500 feet. You can have this fitted in an older BBJ, by the way, so that's something that you may want to consider while you're out there looking for an aircraft. But you know, as I said, to buy one, that's pretty much the cost. Operating, it's a lot more. Altitude restriction, you know, on a G550 you can fly at flight level 450. On the Boeing Business Jet, you are flying around about 35 to 37,000 feet, not 45,000. So if you are operating in certain parts of the world where the weather does get bad, and does get bad high up, you want to try and get above the weather, or you just have to live with it. But, you know, the Boeing Business Jet is built well. I always say it's like a flying tank. It's a very, very powerful aircraft. I mean, I've landed it in the desert. I've landed it with gusty winds up in snowy Norway in the winter. And I must say it's a very robust aeroplane, a very safe aeroplane, and very comfortable as well. So I'm sure as you fly in the BBJ, you'll enjoy it. So really the benefits is the large cabin, and of course ramp presence, because when you're flying some of your guests and you take them onto a Boeing Business Jet, it's a lot more impressive than if you're flying them in a G450, for example. So that's kind of it. So the other thing I want to point out is, if you are going to buy a Boeing Business Jet, you have to remember that you are buying an airliner. Okay, so if you do operate a fleet of Gulfstreams or Falcons or whatever it may be, don't make the mistake that a lot of these people do, where they take their Gulfstream pilots and they stick them on the 737. Now, having flown both private jets and airliners, and the 737 in particular, I can assure you that it's very, very different flying and operating a big aeroplane like that compared to a smaller Falcon, for example. So your pilots need to be Boeing pilots. They need to be experienced airline pilots that have flown not necessarily a Boeing 737, but something similar, something of that dimension, because, you know, it's going to be very, very different. And also from the maintenance standpoint, make sure you get some engineers that understand the Boeing, and don't go and get your Learjet engineer and put him on the Boeing. Make sure you bring in some Boeing engineers that understand the Boeing, and then your Learjet guy can work together with them and learn how the big aeroplane works. But this is very, very important. And also, when you go out to buy a Boeing Business Jet, make sure you use a broker that understands the BBJ. Because if you're going to deal with somebody that's used to selling Learjets or Gulfstreams and whatever, they won't understand the dynamics of the Boeing Business Jet. You are effectively, you're selling an airliner here. You're not selling a private jet. And this is something where you have to find expert advice. In my case, I've worked for the airlines for a number of years. People came to me for the 777 because of my airline experience. And I also understood the whole private jet thing as well. So I'm a bit of a hybrid, which is really what you need, because once you do configure the cabin needs to be fitted as a private jet, essentially. But outside, it's an airliner. So you need this combination. So bear that in mind, that, both in acquiring the aircraft and operating it and flying it, you need to have proper expertise. But I can help you with that. If you want to contact me, my email's below. But I'd love to hear your comments on this video. If you share this video, share it with your friends, family, business associates. And if you haven't subscribed to this channel, subscribe to this channel. And that's all from Fab Poli at BizJet TV. And I'll see you on the next one.